When I'm creating a table, at that time it will going to have a naming the table and it defines its columns as well as each column's data type. When we are performing a drop operation, at that time the complete table will going to be removed from the database. Can I consider this as an expression? Yes. Why? Because we have two operands and in between we have a arithmetic operator called plus. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. Welcome back to the session 2 and we are in the chapter 2 of unit 3 of B.C.A semester 4 and subject called database management systems. In short, it is Dbms. I'm Rohini TS, Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So we are in the second chapter of second session of Unit 3, that is SQL-The Relational Database Standards. Before getting into today's session, we'll have a quick recap of previous session. So in our last session, we have discussed regarding SQL. That means we got to know what is the acronym of this SQL, that is Structured Query Language. Initially, it was SQL, that is Structured English Query Language. So now we are calling it as a SQL, and also we got to know that it was invented in the year 1970s. And also we have discussed regarding what are the elements of this SQL, that includes data definition language, data manipulation language, views, aggregate functions, all those that comes under the elements of a SQL. So under that we have discussed regarding the DDL or a data definition language and also data manipulation language, and also we got to know regarding what are the data types that we have in a SQL along with the operators. When it comes to the operator, you have to work regarding arithmetic operator, and also we have learned regarding the logical operator and related to relational operator. So this is what we have discussed in the previous session. So in our today's session, so these are all the theoretical part. So now we'll see how it will going to be implemented. For example, if I'm saying with respect to this DDL or a data definition language, so there we have a create, alter, as well as we have a drop commands in the DDL. So in order to implement that, how we are going to use this as a command, how we are going to write that command in a practical manner, that is what we are going to learn in our today's session. So that first we'll see what do you mean by SQL expression and what are the types of SQL expression we have. Along with that, let me discuss regarding implementation of SQL commands. So that includes create command, alter, drop, insert, select, update, as well as at last we have delete statement. So each statement, when you are learning about each statement, first you have to understand what is its use, for what purpose we are using that. Along with that, you need to remember its syntax or one or more example. That will be enough for each type of statements what we have in the SQL. So let me get into today's session, that is with respect to SQL expression. So what this expression is all about? Do you think it's all about facial expression? No. So expression, it's a combination of operator as well as the operand. So that an expression is a combination of one or more values, operators, as well as SQL function that evaluate to a value. So here we have a combination of operator as well as some of the values, and also we have SQL function in order to get a value. So together it will going to form a SQL expression. So here let me consider A plus B. Can I consider this as an expression? Yes. Why? Because we have two operands and in between we have a arithmetic operator called plus. So that is what, it's a combination of all the values as well as the operators and then SQL function. Then what are the types of expression we have in a SQL? It includes SQL Boolean expression. So Boolean in the sense what? It will deals only with the two values, either true or false. So in order to fetch the data on the basis of matching single value, we are going to use this Boolean expression. It will going to return either true or false based on a single value. So it will going to match with a value which is correct, either it's true or false, that will going to be returned as a resultant. That is with respect to Boolean expression. And second type, we have a numeric expression. So numeric in the sense that is related to number. So if you wanted to perform any arithmetic or mathematical operations, at that time we are going to have this numerical expression. And also we have a date expression. So here date in the sense what? It will fetch the current date of a system. So if you are using a system, whatever the date which is present or date and time which is present in your system, currently it will going to returns that correct system, date as well as the time values. So these are the expression type that we have in a SQL. So we'll see about the implementation of a SQL statement. In that, first we have a create statement or a create table statement. So first, as we all know that we have a table, so that comprises of rows as well as columns. So and we got to know what is table and how the relationship and what you mean by attributes and entity, everything we know. Then how we are going to create this table in a practical manner. So for that reason, we are going to have a keyword called create table. So we need to specify what we are creating. Are we creating a table or a view? Are we creating a database? So it is necessary to specify we have to create a table. So when we are creating a table, at the time it will going to form a new table. So you can see the syntax here. So before that, when I am creating a table, at the time it will going to have a naming the table and it defines its columns as well as each column's data type. So when I am creating a table, it is mandatory to give the name for a table. For example, you just consider here I am creating a table called student. What is the name of a table here? Student. And I wanted to have certain attributes for it. That means I have to take a column. Let me consider that as a student ID, and also I have a name and then age or a date of birth. So I have a 3 attributes for a student table, and what we have to do when we are creating a table, I have to mention the name of a table as well as the attributes name and its data type. For example, if it is student ID, what kind of data it has to hold? Already we have learnt in the data types of SQL. So if it is name, I have to specify varchar of what size. So that is what we have to remember here. When we are creating a table, it is mandatory to mention a table name as well as its column and type of or data type of each column. So that you have to mention. So let me see the basic syntax of creating a table here. First we have to use a keyword called create, and then what we are creating, that is table. So then it is followed by a name of a table. That means we have to give a name for a table. Why? Because if I am dealing with a database that's not only consist of a single table, there will be a chances of having n number of table. So in order to identify what content to be fetched from which table, it is necessary to give the table name mainly for the identification purpose. So that create table, table name. What table comprises of? So we have given a name for a table. Then I have to create a attributes. That is, I have to create a column. So how we are going to do that? Open the parenthesis, then column 1. So in that column 1, I have to specify its associated data type. So if I write this column 1, that is student ID, then I have to specify its data type and then comma. What is the next column? That is column 2. Then I have to specify its data type, and you can take any number of column, that means up to column n. Then specify the data type. And if you wanted to have any constraints like primary key constraint, or if you wanted to make any constraint like any conditions over there, then you can write here in the primary key. So I'm done with the creation of a table. So then I have to close the parenthesis with a semicolon. So when there is a semicolon after a parenthesis, then that specifies the end of a creation of that table. So now let me create the student table with some of the attributes here. So first, what is the keyword I have to use? I have to use a keyword called create. And what we are creating? We are creating table, right? So create table, let me consider the name of a table as student, right? What student table comprises of? It has a student ID and name as well as age, right? So let me consider the student ID as a varchar. I wanted to give its value both in alphabets as well as the numbers. So that varchar of 20 and then comma name, varchar of 20 comma, at last I have to take a age, right? And we have age attribute. For that, let me consider the integer. Okay. So I'm done with the specification of an attribute. I don't want you to make any of the attributes or its property as a primary key. So I will just simply close it along with a semicolon. This will going to create a table of 3 attributes, and the table name is student, and it comprises of 3 attributes called student ID, and it has name as well as age. So when we are writing or when we are creating this table, it will have 3 attributes: SID or student ID of data type varchar, and for name we have a varchar, and also for age we have a integer data type. So in this manner you try to write or you try to create a table called employee. Employee comprises of employee ID, employee name, their basic salary, TADA, and you can take their PF amount balance and number of leaves taken. So that is what you can write along with certain constraint. So this is how we are going to use a create table statement. So now we have created a table. Now I just wanted to put some value into that. Then how it is possible? That with the help of this insert statement. So this insert statement will going to help us in order to insert or use to add new rows of data to a table in the database. With the help of this insert statement, we can insert a values or a rows or a records or a tuples to the table of a database. Then what is its syntax to insert a value? So there are 2 kinds of methods we can follow. First, I can create a table and associated to that table, I can add some values, or we can insert a rows or tuple into that table, or else we can specify the table name and with correspondence to the values as well as its data type or its column name, we can do that. Let me show you here. First, consider one syntax here: insert into table name. Here I have to mention to which table I wanted to insert. Let me consider the student table again itself. Let me consider student table. So that student table comprises of what? It has a student ID and we have a name, and also it includes age. So these are the 3 attributes and already we know its data type, right? Now I wanted to insert. Insert into table name. What is the table name here? Student. And then column 1, column 2, column 3. I can have n number of columns, and with respect to column I have to give a values for each column, so that if I am giving some value as a value of first value, then that first value 1 should match to the column 1. So already we know the data type of this column 1 while creating a table. So then based on the data type what we have in a particular column, based on that we have to mark its values. So that insert into table name and mention the columns. After that values, value 1, value 2 up to n number of value. So if we have a 5 column, then the number of values must be only 5. It should not be either greater or a lesser. So if it is lesser, then that will going to be filled by 0. So that based on the number of column you have to insert a value. Let me write the query for this table itself. What is the first line we have? Insert into, what is the table name? That is student. Insert into student. And what are the columns I have? Student ID, comma, name, comma, age. And am I supposed to give a semicolon over there? No, because I am not terminating a statement. I am simply coming to the next line of a code. It includes values. What is the first attribute or a column we have? Student ID. What was its data type? That was varchar. So that here I have to take a student ID as PCMC 101. So you can take it as a single quote, or else you can go with a double quote also. So when it comes to the name, let me consider Sneha and consider the age as 22. So for number, for integer, no need to give single or double quotes. When we are dealing with a varchar or a char, then only it is necessary to specify the value between the single or double quotes. At last we have to specify its semicolon. This is one method. So when we know, when we know what are the columns we have, what are the data types already given. So if that is the situation, at that time no need to mention the column name. Directly I can take the values. So how it will be possible? We'll see now. It is of method 2, insert into table name. So I am taking just a table name and directly instead of specifying what are the columns we have, instead of that I am simply specifying values, then value 1, value 2, value 3 up to value n. So that means value 1 should correspondence to the column 1. So that I have to understand first. So that insert into table name. How can I write this query for the previous example? Insert into, what is the name of a table? That is student. Insert into student, values, and What was the first value? So that is varchar student ID. Let me consider PCMC 101, comma, let me consider the name as a Sneha and 22. Okay, this is how the second method of insertion will going to takes place. Only when you know how the table has been created, how many attributes or column it includes, what is its data type. Only if you know that content directly, then you can go with this method. So here I have one example. Insert into student register number, name, fees. So this was earlier method 1. So that and directly we have a value. So 1411. This will going to be corresponding to the register number. And here also we have a Shreya, that is the value of this name. And also we have a fees, that is 24,000, which is with respect to the fees. Then we are going to close a parenthesis with semicolon that indicates that we are done with a single insertion of a table. So then how table look like right now after the insertion? So if you consider the student table, it comprises of student ID and it includes name as well as it has age, right? What is the value of a student ID? PC MC101 and name is Neha and its age is 22. So this is how table looks like once it is inserted. And if I keep on repeating the same set of code for different value and different number of rows will going to be added to the existing table. So if I wanted to have a certain number of rows or a tuples, then this is how it look like after the insertion when I am typing this command, that is select star from student. So you will get to know what is select and when we are going to use this star and how to have a statement like that. That is you are going to understand. But here I have inserted 6 numbers of tuples or a records. So for each we have to specify the register number and their name, combination and date of birth as well as a fees. So we have 5 attributes here and each attribute will going to have its own data type along with certain constraint. In order to satisfy that, we have based on that constraint we have to specify the values or a data. So then it will going to be reached to the table in each row. So this is how table will going to look like once the insertion will going to takes place. So this is how this table will be after the insertion has been done. This is regarding creation and insertion. So next we have a drop statement. So first you have to understand what is the difference between drop and delete. Okay, so you just imagine we have a room. So in that room we have certain items. Okay, so certain items are there in the room. So if I wanted to remove that content or if I just vacating that room and all, that is what? Delete. If I am removing the content from a table, that is delete. If I delete an entire room or if I demolish that room, then it will going to be called as drop. This is what the difference between delete as well as the drop. So now we'll see about the drop command first. So drop statement or a drop table statement is used to remove a table definition and all the data, indexes, triggers and constraints and permission specification for that table. So we are entirely completely deleting a table from a database. I am also deleting a structure of a table and what are the constraints we have, what are the tables or its column, everything that we are removing from the database. So this is regarding drop. Then how to drop, what is the syntax for that? Drop table as well as table name. So and you have to remember one thing, when I drop any of the table, that is no more will going to be existed in a database. So if we perform delete operation, one row or one column value will going to be deleted. But when we are performing a drop operation, at that time the complete table will going to be removed from the database. So if I wanted to drop that student table, how I am supposed to write? Drop table student. So, and if I am trying to search for the student table in the database, then it will shows that student table does not exist because we have dropped that table called student. This is how this drop statement will going to work. We'll see the next statement, update statement. So now you just imagine I have a table, I have created a table, I have inserted certain values. So after sometimes I may feel that I just wanted to change its content. So at that time we are going to use this update statement. So alter statement is used to alter the structure of a table, but update statement is used to update the content or data whatever we have in a rows or a record of a table. So that is also difference between alter as well as a update. Okay, so here SQL provides the ability to change the data through update statement or a command, and this update command used to modify or to update an already existing row or rows of table. So for example, you just imagine, again let me consider the student table itself, and it comprises of student ID, name as well as age, right? So PCMC 101 and name is Neha and age is 22. So here I have done a mistake. Instead of taking a age as 22, I wanted to make it as 23. Then we have to use this update statement instead of alter. Let me see how it will going to be worked with respect to its syntax. So here update table name. I have to mention which table needs to be updated. Then I have to set a new value for the existing data of a row or a record of a table. So that set column name is equal to value. This is a existing column. I wanted to change it to the new value. So you can do it for any number of attributes or a column which you wanted to update or to modify. So that if I wanted to give certain condition, then I have to use this where clause, where condition. So once it is done, give the semicolon. Let me show you how it will be worked. So as I told earlier, I wanted to change the age by 22 to 23. How it will be? We'll see now. Let me consider update. What is the name of a table? Student. Set, which is the keyword and we are using set. What is the attribute name? Age is equal to 23. It was 22. Now I wanted to make it as 23. Where? Let me consider the condition where name is equal to Sneha. So what I am saying, so if you wanted to make it more unique, instead of taking name, you can also consider student ID. Student ID is equal to PCMC 101. So you can consider either name as well as you can consider student ID. Why? Because somehow name can be, there will be a chances of having same name in a single table, but uniquely identification can be done with the help of this student ID. So that instead of taking name, it's better to go with a student ID. So whoever the student whose ID is PCMC 101, so whatever the age was there in that table, so that age will going to be updated by 23. This is how we are going to use this update statement, right? So now update set where. This is you have to remember. We are setting certain value for a particular column based on certain condition of a particular table. This is regarding update statement. So next we have a select statement. So why we have to select? If I wanted to select a certain columns, then we have to use this select statement. Mainly it is used to fetch the data from a database table. So this will going to return the data in the form of result table. So I am fetching some of the attribute, I am fetching some of the columns from the table of a based on certain condition. Okay, so that is regarding what select statement. We are fetching or we are accessing the already existing content based on certain condition. So that resultant table is also considered as result set, because it's giving a new value or it's giving a new result table. So based on certain condition, based on certain constraint, we are fetching certain columns with respect to this select statement. Then we'll see its syntax. So for example, you just imagine I have a student table again, right? I just wanted to know what is the age of a student whose ID is 101, 102, like that. Or else if I wanted to know whose age are same, like for example, I wanted to get the name where age of same value. So we'll see how it will be defined with respect to the syntax. select column 1, column 2. We can select up to n number of column from table name. This is what compulsory part when it comes to the select. For example, you just imagine I wanted to select only name. I wanted to know the name of a student. So that select name, from where I wanted to select, from which table, that is student table. Select name from student. This is one type of statement with respect to the select. And if I wanted to select a particular column, so this will return what? If I am writing select name from student, if this name contains n number of domain values or a domain number of attributes, then all the values of that name will going to be displayed as a resultant table. But what if I wanted to select a particular record? So then I have to use where condition, so that you can see the where condition, and also we can have a group by, having class, even order by class. All these can be optional part which can be implemented to this select statement. Let me consider one example here. Select name from student where age is equal to 23. This is my query. So now let me consider the table here. Consider I have a student table and it includes student ID, student name is there, and it has age. Okay, consider student ID as 1, 2 and 3. Fine. And then Raju, Sneha, Avinash. Consider 22, 23 and 23. Right? We have a student table and we have 3 attributes or a 3 columns: student ID, name as well as age, and its rows are values. That is what tuples values. I wanted to fetch a column. So here I have written a code. Select name. What I wanted to select? I wanted to select a name. From where? From student table. Right? I wanted to fetch this name column from the student table, and am I giving any of the condition? Yes. What is that? Where age is equal to 23. So then it will going to match with the age domain. So where the student name or a student whose age is 23, that name only will going to be sent as a resultant table. So now what I will get as a resultant? I will get a name column as a resultant, and whose age is only 23 when it is equal to 23. So that what is the name of a student whose age is 23? First name is Raju, and second I have Sneha here, and it will not going to return Avinash. Why? Because age is equal to 22. It is not equal to 23. So that the resultant set or resultant table will going to be look like this. This is how this select statement will going to work. So what if I wanted to select all the tuples and all the columns? Then we have to use a star, right? So how we are going to write that? Let me consider select star from which table? From student table. And let me put semicolon. Select star from student. At that time all the rows as well as all the columns value will going to be displayed as a resultant table. This is regarding select statement. And if you wish to have where class, or if you wanted to have order by, all those classes or conditions that you can have with the help of this select statement. So now we'll see about this delete. So how this delete statement will going to work? If you wanted to delete up existing records in a table, so if I wanted to delete a particular row, or if I wanted to delete a particular record from a table, then I have to use this delete. So now you can analyze the difference between the delete and drop, right? So consider student ID again, name as well as age, right? And we have 1, and consider A 28, 2, B 24. This is what table called? Yes. Okay. So if I wanted to delete this particular row, then I have to use delete statement. But what if I wanted to delete this entire table? Then I have to use a drop. That is the difference. So if I wanted to update this particular row, or if I wanted to update or to modify a particular record, then I have to use a update statement. What if I wanted to change its structure? For example, here we have a student ID, name and age. I wanted to take one more called phone number. Then I have to use alter command, right? This is how all the statements will going to work. So what is the syntax of this delete statement? Delete from table name. I wanted to delete. So here delete from table name, and we can give a condition, where condition. So under the where clause, we have to specify a condition. How we are going to do that? Let me consider. Here we have a employee table, EMP, and employee ID is there and employee name is there. Okay, 1 and Rani. Let me consider 2, Raju. So we have 2 columns, 2 rows, right? Employee ID, employee name are the 2 columns, and it has 2 rows or a records, 1. So associated employee name is Rani, and 2 is a employee ID, and Raju is another name for a employee name. So I just wanted to delete this entire row. So how I am supposed to write the query for that? Delete from, what is the name of a table? EMP. Where? I wanted to write a condition, where what I can write? Employee ID is equal to 1. So this entire row will going to be deleted from a table. So that then what I can get right now? Select star from EMP. So at that time it will going to returns a resultant table like employee ID, and it has employee name. So it has only one value, that is 2, and then Raju, because we have deleted this first record or a tuple. This is how this delete will going to work. So if you wish to delete all the rows from this table, so then delete from table name. So if I just write like delete from EMP, at that time even the second row is not going to be present. So all the records will going to be deleted from this employee table. This is regarding delete. I hope you all understood. In my coming session, we'll see about how this order by class, group by clause, and what do you mean by the string, what is null, and what are the SQL constraints we have, and also we'll see about what you mean by views in a SQL. I hope you all enjoyed this session. Let me meet you in the next session. Until that, keep learning, keep on growing. Thank you.